I am Professor Lynn Porter of Fairfield University, and this is my acting lecture for my Intro to Theater class. Throughout this presentation, you will see numerous photographs from one production of Hamlet. This is a production starring Benedict Cumberbatch from 2015. The National Theatre in London did this production. And I got to tell you, if you ever get a chance to see this version of Hamlet through National Theatre Live, you're going to want to see it because it's really marvelous. There are numerous misconceptions about acting, and I want to address this one right here at the start. Um, because acting is not about an actor projecting an emotion. Some people talk about actors like if they see a performance and somehow it resonates with them, they talk about how the actor was able to convey emotions, like the actor is a professional emoter. And that's really not what's happening at all. There is not a mind meld between the actor and the audience, and they can just simply convey emotions. Actually, what is happening is the audience member is perceiving the play through their eyes and ears and all of their senses, and then they have an emotional response to what it is they are perceiving, and it's often an empathetic emotional response. So really, all of the emotion is generated inside the audience, not with the actor. The actor is thinking about all other kinds of things that we haven't even talked about yet. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I just want to state up front, acting is not about emoting or being really, really emotional. In fact, if we go to our dictionaries, we can actually find some clues there. And I have to just reveal something about myself. I am a bit of a word nerd and I love dictionary diving. There's always so much that I can find out about a word when I look to see where the word came from or what it's based on. And the dictionary tells us that the word acting and the word action, those two words are based on the common root word to act. So acting is about doing something. Acting is an action. It's not about feeling something. So what is it the actor is actually doing? The actor is playing a character, and the playing is the action that the actor is engaged in. And it's worthwhile to take a second to note here that actors are people whose job it is to play. Most people, when they go to work, they work. When actors go to work, they play. And all those meanings of the word play are very much part of this whole theater experience. I mean, let's be honest, you go to see a play, and an actor is a player, and their job is to play. And really, if you think about what playing is when we're children on a playground goofing around with our friends, what are we doing when we play? We are experimenting, we're trying new things out. We very frequently are pretending to be somebody else. We're portraying a role or playing let's pretend. All of us used to play that a lot. We play catch. You know, you take a ball and you catch it and you throw it. And that's exactly what an actor does on stage. While pretending to be someone else, that actor catches something, responds to it, and tosses it back. And that back and forth between our actors, that then becomes a piece of dialogue, right? So that kind of playing is very much an important part of understanding what it is going on stage for us. When we look at this, we realize now we have a new term. We have character. So let's get into that. So what is a character? And how is the character separate from the actor? And this gets into the one of the paradoxes of theater, where the actor gives part of himself or herself over to the character. Uh, I mean, look at these two photographs. They seem very similar, don't they? But on the left, we have a portrait of the actor, Benedict Cumberbatch, And on the right, we have the character Hamlet caught in a moment of the play. Of course, this Hamlet is being portrayed by the actor, Mr. Cumberbatch. So, in very real terms, these are two different personas. Mr. Cumberbatch is the son of two actors. Both of his parents are in the theater. And Hamlet is the son of the King of Denmark, and his mother is the Queen of Denmark. And they have radically different backgrounds. They react to the world in radically different ways. So they're not the same at all. Like I said before, it's paradoxical, I know. So, getting back to the idea of a character. What is a character? The character is a person who is performing the action of the play, the person who is going through the experience of whatever's going on in the play. So, when we see a play, we are watching characters struggle with the circumstances that they find themselves in. Yes, we are watching actors portray those characters, but in a really great performance, the actor seems to go away and the character is what we see on stage. Most frequently, the characters we see are human, but they don't have to be. They can be animals or supernatural creatures or superheroes or machines or aliens. They can be lots of different kinds of beings. Even if the characters are historical people, they're based on real life people, they're still characters, fictional characters from a fictional point of view within the world of the play. So characters don't have to be human, but this is the important part. All characters have human problems. Like Nemo and Marlin in Finding Nemo, their problems are very much the problems of humans, right? Nemo's on his way to school and he gets lost, and Marlin has to find him. That is a problem that humans have in life. If we're looking at the characters in The Wizard of Oz, the scarecrow wants a brain and the lion wants to be brave. And those are, very real problems. I want to be smarter. I want to not be a coward. Those are problems that humans have, not problems that scarecrows have or lions have. Those are we've anthropomorphized those characters, but in their hearts, they're really dealing with problems we have as humans. Because plays are about people. They're ways for us to wrestle with this thing we share, this human experience. I've been talking about this relationship between the actor and the character, but there's another important person involved here, and that is our playwright. Because so much of what a character goes through and what an actor has to deal with is initially determined by the playwright, which means that the actor's job requires analyzing the script, reading the script, figuring out what clues our playwright has planted in there to help the actor embody the character. So when the actor is reading the script, trying to figure out how to play a character, the actor is looking for four different things: your given circumstances, the objective of the character, the obstacles, and the tactics. We're going to get into each one of these things in detail. The first thing is our given circumstances. And obviously, from this picture, we're talking about the who is this character and where are they and when are they, all of those kinds of questions. We're talking about the facts about the character that are not open to interpretation. Hamlet is the Prince of Denmark. He's not the Duke of Normandy, right? He's the Prince of Denmark. It's even in the title of the play. It's a fact about him. So who is he? He is a young man. He was away at college. His father is dead. His mother has recently married his uncle, his father's brother. That's kind of creepy. And his uncle, Uncle Claudius, has now taken over the throne. All of those are facts that are baked into the fabric of Hamlet, that there's no getting around them. If you're going to be doing Hamlet, you have to deal with those facts. There's nothing open to interpretation here. And this gets to the question of character credibility. Is a character to be believed or not? Is a character telling the truth? And we've got three things we can look for that can help us answer that question. First, we can look for what the character says about themselves. So if I'm playing the role of Frida in a play, for example, I would look in the script, I would find the dialogue. And when Frida says, I'm a nice person, all right, that's a clue that goes into this category. And then there's what other characters say about the character. So with my example, you might have a friend of Frida say, oh yeah, Frida is a really nice person. And then the last piece of the puzzle comes down to what does the character do? What actions does this character make? And so if I'm playing the role of Frida, I say I'm a nice person. My friends say I'm a nice person. But if I'm reading the play and there's a scene where Frida kicks someone, all of a sudden, as an actor getting ready to play the role of Frida, I would be like, oh, so even though she says she's nice and her friends think she's nice, maybe I need to re-examine that because, I mean, kicking that guy? What's that about? I want to point out that these are the ways that we assess character in all humans, not just characters in plays. These are ways that we can tell if our friends are really our friends or if they just say they're our friends. Are they being mean girls or are they being bullies to and they're nice to our faces but they're mean behind our backs? Right. So, yeah, this is how we assess human nature as humans. I also want to point out the old adage that actions speak louder than words, because at the end of the day, what the character does, not what the character says, tends to be the most truthful, most accurate way of really assessing what makes that character tick. Okay, moving along from given circumstances, let's look at the objective. The objective is what makes the character do what he or she does. It's something the character needs to achieve. And that becomes the driving force behind everything the character does. This is one of the most important things that an actor is looking for in the play, figuring out the character's objective. But this is not something that's literally written down by our playwright. The actor has to figure it out and then write a sentence. The best objectives are the ones that use action verbs because actors are doing something. Finding a really strong doing word will help the actor have something strong to do. As an example with Hamlet, Hamlet's objective is to avenge his father's murder. And there he's got that wonderful verb in there, avenge, right? So that's something the character, the actor can do. Why is this important? Until we know what a character wants, we don't know what the story is about. And until we know what the stakes are, we don't care. All right, you can find this quote all over the internet. Nobody seems to know who actually said it, but it's really, really true. It's actually instructions for writing a play or screenwriting. The character has to want something, and they have to want it badly, and that becomes the frame that the whole story hangs on. There have to be high stakes and the character has to want or need something desperately. And that want, that need, those stakes are what engage us as audience members. Okay, let's move along to obstacle. Just like in real life, an obstacle is something that holds the character back from whatever it is the character wants to achieve. It's the thing standing in the way of getting what you want. It's an obstacle. And there's lots of different ways that obstacles can show up. And usually there's more than one obstacle for the character getting the objective. Sometimes it can be another character standing in the way. If Hamlet wants to be the king of Denmark with his uncle Claudius on the throne, I think Claudius is a bit of an obstacle to that want right there, isn't it? Sometimes it can be the physical environment. Sometimes it is the gigantic meteor burning through the atmosphere on the way to hitting the earth and doing all these horrible things. So sometimes the obstacle can be something physical, be a weather, it could be the hurricane blowing in from the south, right? And sometimes the obstacle can be interior. It can be something within the character. And we see this a lot in Hamlet because he's so dedicated to being thoughtful and doing something right that he takes a long time to getting around to killing his uncle Claudius, who killed his father, right? Doing the vengeance part of it. Hamlet actually holds himself back throughout a large part of the play. And it's this back and forth between the character driving forward toward the objective and the obstacles standing in the way that forms the conflict in the play. And because there is conflict, we as audience members, as humans, we want to watch. We love to watch other people in trouble. This idea of conflict, we're going to come to a little bit later in the semester when we start looking at the structure of plays and how central the idea of conflict is to the entire structure of a play. Okay, so we have given circumstances, we have the character's objective, we have multiple obstacles standing in the way of the characters achieving the objective, and now we get to tactics. Tactics are ways that the character goes about achieving the objective. These are things the character is actually doing, trying to achieve that objective. Some tactics are actually written into the script, but many of them have to be actually invented by the actor. And I want to point out that as the character is working toward the objective, the character tries tactic one and fails at it. It doesn't work. So then we have to try another tactic. Let's go to tactic two. Does that achieve my objective? Oh, no, that one didn't work either. So much of the play is a character trying to do something with a tactic, failing, trying another tactic and failing, and repeatedly trying and failing. And often the bulk of the play is this struggle to achieve the objective while trying different strategies that don't actually work. Okay, everything we've been talking about so far is looking for things that are baked into the script. We're talking about clues that our playwright has given us. But when we get to this new concept, the idea of an inner monologue, we're starting to get into the category of things the actor interpolates and actually adds to the script in order to enhance the performance. Take a second to actually look at this image. What is the character saying? Maybe my problem is I just think too highly of myself. But look what the character is thinking. Pish, tosh, and nonsense, my liege. Okay, obviously there's a little bit of a joke in there, but there's what a character says and there's what a character thinks, and often they're very, very different from one another. So our inner monologue is this thought process of the character that runs only inside the actor's mind as the actor is performing the role of the character. By using an inner monologue, the actor then has something to help pull them from tactic to tactic toward their objective. So if we go back to our example from Hamlet, if the objective is to avenge my father's murder, Hamlet has the tactic of holding the play. Does he does that in order to confirm that his uncle Claudius actually did kill his dad. All right, good. So that tactic got me a little bit closer, but now it didn't really, avenge the murder. How can I avenge the murder? And then Hamlet is walking down the hallway. Look at that. Claudius is there praying. Oh, I could kill him right now. Now might I do it, Pat? And he gets ready to kill Claudius. I can avenge him now. But then he stops himself. No, that wouldn't be vengeance because he's praying. He would go to heaven, and that would not actually be vengeance on a murder. So he stops himself. So he has to find another tactic to eventually get to avenging his father's murder. So there's multiple tactics where a character tries and fails to achieve an objective. So there we have it. We have our given circumstances, we have our objective, we have our obstacles keeping us from getting the objective. We have the tactics, which are ways we go about trying to achieve the objective. And then we also have an inner monologue. What am I thinking moment to moment as I work through the action of this play? And I understand not everybody knows Hamlet. So let's go with an example you probably do know. Probably somewhere in your background, you encountered Disney's version of the fairy tale Cinderella. So let's look for the four main things going on in this play. What are the given circumstances? What is Cinderella's objective? What are the obstacles to Cinderella achieving that objective? And what are the tactics she uses? Okay, so what are the givens in this play? We know that Cinderella is poor. We know she's an orphan. Her mother is dead. Her father just recently died. She's now being treated as a servant. She has a stepmother who's horrid, and she has two stepsisters who are even horrider, and she's in a really awful situation. But she's a kind, lovely human being, and yes, she has made friends with some animals. What does Cinderella want? She wants to go to the ball. It's very simple. She wants to go to the party everybody is going to. What is stopping Cinderella from going to the ball? Well, her stepmother, for one, who very clearly does not want her to go for her own reasons. And of course, Cinderella doesn't have anything she could possibly wear to the ball. So, how does Cinderella go about trying to achieve her objective despite the obstacles? The tactics she uses, first of all, she does all the chores. Remember, her stepmother gives her all of these chores to do, and after she does that, she can go to the party. Of course, the stepmother is lying to her. And then Cinderella finds an old dress that she could possibly wear. She gets her little mice and bird friends to help her dress up her dress and make it pretty. And then, of course, she does have a visit from a fairy godmother who takes that rather sad little dress and makes it into something marvelous. There you have it, in very brief, the various given circumstances, objective, obstacles, and tactics going on in Cinderella. And one thing I want to point out, the given circumstances are true throughout the play for all the characters, but every character has their own objective and their own obstacles toward achieving their objective. Every character uses different tactics. And if we're looking back at Cinderella, we see that the stepmother has an objective that is diametrically opposed to Cinderella's objective, right? Cinderella wants to go to the ball, and the stepmother does not want Cinderella at that ball because she wants her own daughters, the stepsisters, to be the pretty girls at the ball. And of course, they're not at all pretty girls. She doesn't want Cinderella there for the competition, right? So every character has an objective, and often they're in contradiction with one another. Okay, there we go. There is Disney's Cinderella in a nutshell. And just as a side note, a couple years ago, Disney came out with a live action Cinderella directed by the amazing Kenneth Branagh. And if you have not seen this version of the story, you really want to. And I'm talking to everybody here. I'm not just talking to the ladies in the room. This is a gorgeous gorgeous production of Cinderella that somehow speaks to all of us. It is a beautiful, beautiful production of a really simple story, but told in a very fascinating way by one of the world's great Shakespearean actors. You should be able to find it in Netflix or Amazon, one of those streaming services. You can definitely find this production. Okay, getting back to what an actor is looking for when reading the script, I want to point out a few more concepts. The first one is called the super objective, which sounds like an objective with a superhero cape, and it kind of is. And when we talk about objectives relative to super objectives, you can see in this picture here, you have individual objectives in every chapter or in every scene. Here and then we have the overarching super objective, which all of those individual objectives fit into. So here we have make an impression, and that might be the objective in scene 2 or chapter 2. I think this is an image from a novel writing class. So one objective might be make an impression, and then the next piece might be get a date. But then the overriding big picture super objective to be loved is really what we're talking about here. So you have individual objectives for each scene of a play, but then a character has an overarching super objective. So the super objective is the big thing the character wants that drives the character through the whole play, and the character must want this desperately. The stakes have to be high. If we go back to our Cinderella example, for Cinderella, her super objective is to live happily ever after with someone who loves her. But her objective of going to the ball fits underneath that, fits within that. So by going to the ball, she gets part way there. Of course, the play doesn't end, the movie doesn't end with her dancing at the ball, does it? She still has to achieve that super objective of living happily ever after with Prince Charming. So we still have to get through that piece of the story. Wow, there's a lot to think about there, isn't it? Right? We have our given circumstances, our objectives, obstacles, tactics, inner monologue, super objective. Wow, how does an actor go about organizing all of this information so they can actually make sense of it? That is where the beat comes in. A beat is defined as a unit of action within a play or a scene or a movie, which doesn't tell us much. A unit of action? Okay, so basically, every time the tactic shifts, there is a beat shift. A new tactic leads to a new beat because trying to accomplish that new tactic means that something has shifted within the overall action. The way this works in practice is that you end up having a scene broken up into beats, which basically means you have a series of mini scenes. And then for each mini scene, the actor can break the work down into doable chunks. Literally, an acting textbook I know of talks about chunking up the script, breaking it down into the reasonable chunks. And the beat is the chunk of a scene that almost always lines up with where a tactic shifts. So you have a beat shift from one tactic to the next tactic, and we call those individual units of the play a beat. There you have it. That's what I wanted you to know about acting. These are all of the things that the actor uses to do the work that we see on stage. Yeah, sounds really complicated, doesn't it? And some people, like Mr. Cumberbatch, make it look so simple, don't they? Okay, that's what I wanted you to know about acting today. Thank you for your attention.